Chase Thomas podcast. My nephew needs me to record. See, I already hate it. I hate it.
All right, hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Chase Thomas podcast, where I'm still the aforementioned Chase Thomas, coming to you live from Knoxville, Tennessee. Everything School HQ over there. A first-timer on this very show. ESPN baseball analyst, former Major League Baseball player Xavier Scruggs is here. Xavier, good morning. How are you?
Hey, good morning. I'm good. Can't complain. Going into the new year, just trying to keep everything on pace, especially with I got 3 crazy kids, so just trying to keep them in order right now.
How is that going? Is it good? Christmas is done. Is there, I'm not a parent yet, so after Christmas, is there a big sigh of relief that you got through another year? Do you get time to relax, or is it just the next thing?
Yeah, no, it's a huge sigh of relief. It's almost like, okay, we got through the holidays. Now it's like, let's get ready for school to get going again. And then, baseball season coming right around the corner. So everybody's getting excited for that too. Yeah,
absolutely. And it's kind of wild because, Tennessee baseball starts back 30 days, and then you got pitchers and catchers reporting in a couple weeks after that. And it's kind of wild that we're at that point that baseball really isn't that far off. How do you go into your prep, Xavier? Like when you're going through the new season, do you wait for all the signings and trades to wrap up before you really dig in? How do you approach the offseason and getting ready for next year?
Yeah, I think I'm pretty much I do MLB Network radio. So like the good thing for me is I'm always feeling like I'm continually having an idea as to what's going on. A lot of the trending topics within the game, I'm staying up on, with these social media sites, Instagram, Twitter or X, TikTok. I feel like there's always news being thrown at your face, whether you want it or not. So I feel like that's one of the ways that I can easily stay engaged as to what's going on. But also, like for me in general, I love to read. So I love like just reading articles about specific trending topics in the game, guys that are have stuff going on in the off season, and just trying to figure out a little bit more of what I can find that maybe somebody else can't find, or what I might be interested in that somebody else may not be as interested in. I love kind of staying up on that. That's more my process, especially during this time.
What was your favorite book you read over the last year?
The favorite book I've read over last year, probably YouTube Secrets.
Okay.
That almost has nothing to do with baseball, but at the same time, I just started a new show, Show and Go with X, and having guys come on, and I'm actually diving into this YouTube space a little bit, but the focus for me is to be able to take all these baseball guys within the industry coming on and be able to distribute it via YouTube, but also give people a sense of direction, whether they're in the game of baseball, whether they're just living normal lives, and what can people take from that. So YouTube Secrets is something that I've learned from to help be able to give that information away in the right way, and on a platform that I wasn't as familiar with.
Yeah. It's always changing. As someone also in the space, Xavier, it's just, you always got to be reading. You always got to stay up to date on things. When I started this podcast 6-7 years ago, there was no YouTube. There was no video component. People, it didn't make sense to me. I didn't think people would want to watch me talk about sports. I thought they would just listen to it on the commute. People want to watch it. And you have kids, and I have friends with kids who are like, they watch other kids play games. They don't play games themselves. They watch other people do stuff. It's a different era.
My kids are doing the same thing. It's crazy.
Yeah. It's a little bit different, Xavier. But speaking of everything you've got going on with MLB content and things of that nature, you talked to Tyler Glasnow, who is now with the Los Angeles Dodgers, because the Los Angeles Dodgers are trading and signing everyone. Because, as you see behind me, we've got the Braves on this very program, well represented as a longtime Atlantan, born and raised in Stone Mountain, Georgia. So you want to see them. Look, they're the target number one, and the Dodgers are doing everything they can to make sure they stay up to date with the Braves. But from your conversation with Glasnow and what you see with this rotation, because I think it's actually really fascinating what this rotation ends up looking like over the course of 2024, because they ran out of bodies last year, and they need Glasnow to stay healthy. They need Yamamoto to be healthy. They need Walker Buehler to bounce back right away. What do you see with this rotation? What did you glean from Glasnow making the trade to Los Angeles?
Yeah, I think obviously it's exciting for the Dodgers fan base to get a pitcher of his caliber, and then you look at the rest of the rotation that he joins. I think you start thinking about a rotation that can compete up against the rotation of the Braves and any other rotation in the National League for that matter, especially with Yamamoto being a part of it, what we saw with Bobby Miller last year. If Walker Buehler comes back anywhere near what we've seen him do, he's going to be exceptional. So I think we understood the Dodgers had to go and get depth. And they did that, and they got top of the line rotation depth, and not just for 1 year. They got it for years on end. Signing Glasnow to an extension. Yamamoto, obviously a long-term deal. Same thing with Shohei Ohtani, who won't pitch this year, but will pitch in years to follow. The Dodgers aren't just trying to set themselves up for 2024. They're trying to be the example of dominance for years on end. So, seeing that and then asking Glasnow kind of about his experiences, during this offseason, he talked about wanting to be on a team that wanted him just as much, right? And a team that you look at the Dodgers, that's going to home, back to home for him, Southern California. So really cool to see that. He talked about Shohei Ohtani and the presence that he is, and the what he commands as far as attention. And I think he's excited to be a part of that too. Because being here in Tampa, I live in Tampa as well. And with him on the Rays, he mentioned you're just not getting that type of notoriety. And the Dodgers are on a different scale when it comes to that. So you can imagine how excited Glasnow was for the trade and the opportunity to be with a team that has a chance to go to the World Series every year.
Yeah. And it's gonna be interesting to see what did you glean from him in the injury front? Do you think he's gonna be okay long term? Because it's actually kind of a big play from both the Dodgers and the Braves with Chris Sale getting extension after the Braves trading for him this week. It's just both teams really need these former aces, maybe still current aces, depending on how healthy they are and how many starts they're able to give them over the next 2 to 3 years. Is there one that you're more like based on what you've seen in their track record that you think is the better gamble? Where do you lean when it comes to Glasnow and Sale?
Yeah, Glasnow is definitely an ace as of today. Sale I think still has a lot to prove in that fashion, because I think Sale, a lot of his performance depends on his velocity, and we saw his velocity dip in a major way last year. But the one thing about Sale is he doesn't have to go to the top of the rotation, right? He can be slotted third or fourth in that rotation with the Braves now, and not feel like he has to have a lot of pressure on himself. So I think the situations are a little bit different. I don't think Glasnow has as much to prove, except for the fact that just got to stay healthy. And last year, you think about it, was an oblique issue, so it wasn't really an arm thing. So I can expect him to stay healthy. I don't know if I expect him to throw 200 innings, but at the same time, I don't think he's going to have to. I think you look at the Dodgers, they'll probably go to a 6-man rotation, be able to use some of those younger guys, especially with Walker Buehler coming back from Tommy John. So I think the situations are different. The gamble is easier to take with the Tyler Glasnow, who's shown you recent dominance. But I think both will be beneficial for both teams.
Well, when you look at what the Dodgers have ultimately done, I think they're done. We can never say never. It seems like
I don't think they're done. I really don't. I think they're still looking for a left fielder. I would keep your eyes on Teoscar Hernandez. Somebody like that, and also a closer. Like I don't know if Evan Phillips is going to ultimately be their guy for 162 games. I think they're still in on Josh Hader. So I definitely don't think the Dodgers are done.
It's kind of weird. I don't know why is Josh Hader, do you think, still out there? Why do you think he hasn't been signed yet?
I think he's commanding like he wants a little bit more than what Edwin Diaz got, and I think teams are just a little more weary of taking that risk. I would say multiple teams. I'm sure there's one team that's okay with that, one or two teams, but I think he's trying to draw a market into which multiple teams can compete over him, and that may just not be the case as far as what he's commanding. And teams are more apt still looking at that starting pitching market. Like starting pitching will always be something important. But those teams that need to lock in that back end, like a Texas Rangers who could shorten the games with the Josh Hader, I could see them definitely being in on him.
Well, speaking of the free agents still out there, Blake Snell, obviously Jordan Montgomery. It's been an interesting conversation. We just saw what Jordan Montgomery did, and Blake Snell obviously having a premier just all-time season in 2023. But both have been they're kind of still a gamble in a different kind of way. And Blake Snell, before last year, we were wondering if he was ever going to get it back. And he had it back in full force in 2023. But you're kind of banking on him turning the corner if you're giving him the kind of deal that he's seeking, and that this is the new norm for Blake. Who do you think is the better investment? Who would you feel if you're a GM of one of these teams that's in on Snell and Montgomery? Who do you think is the safer 3 to 4 year risk?
I think it honestly depends. I'm not trying to go around the question, but I think it honestly depends on what your roster looks like. And I'll give you an example. If I'm the Yankees, I'm okay with going after and investing in a Blake Snell because I understand my window right now with Garrett Cole, who just won the Cy Young last year. I have a bullpen that was really good last year as well. I just didn't have offense. And now I've added to that offense by bringing over a Juan Soto. So now I've been able to supplement myself if I go and get a starting pitcher who doesn't necessarily go deep every time in the ball games, but I know he'll give me a chance to stay in the game. I think that's a team that could be willing to spend that type of money. But if you're a team that's not willing to take as much risk on because maybe you don't have those same factors that are going to help you like the Yankees, then I'm looking at a Jordan Montgomery. So an example of that would be if I'm the Boston Red Sox and I know I need a guy that seems like he can give me 32 starts every time out, at least 30 starts over the past 3 years. And I know predictability what I'm going to get with him. And my rotation was horrible last year as far as guys staying healthy. That's a priority to me. So I think it depends on what the team's priorities are. And then I even look at a Texas Rangers. You won't have DeGrom. You won't have Scherzer at the top at the beginning of the season. So the guys that you're paying the most money to aren't even being used. That would make me want to bring back a Jordan Montgomery because I at least have predictability with him. He may not be the dominant force that Blake Snell was last year, but at least I have an idea as to what he's going to give me each time out. So I think it really does depend upon what your roster looks like and how much risk you're willing to take.
Right now, it's January 6th, Xavier. Who would you predict signs Jordan Montgomery, and who would you predict signs Blake Snell?
I predict that Jordan Montgomery ends up signing with the Boston Red Sox.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I do. And I think that because with them being willing to trade away Chris Sale and they went and got Giolito, but at the same they still need to bring in another starter, like at least one and maybe two. So I think they're still in on Montgomery. But also, when you asked me about Snell, I think Snell's going to end up just going to the highest bidder. I think the Angels look to be that team at the moment. I think they just seem to be wanting to bring in a number one guy, have a guy people can rally and want to go see. And I think Blake Snell is comfortable on the West Coast. So I think I see the Angels getting Blake Snell.
It is funny though. People forget that the Angels are in LA. I mean, it's Anaheim, so it's a little bit out, but Shohei and then just wearing the Ram stuff and all that. Welcome to Los Angeles. It's the guy's been in Los Angeles for a long time. It's the most disrespectful thing I've seen in a while in baseball, where it's just we're treating Shohei like he's a new Los Angeles resident. Question on the Dodgers and Braves for you though. In all seriousness, we'll see in a couple days what the betting market looks like and what the over-unders for the Braves and the Dodgers look like. I think there's no debate that they're going to be the two favorites to win the most games. I mean, I think both could win 100-plus games going into next year, depending on how the rest of the NL unfolds. Yeah. But when you look at those two teams, and let's say Teoscar Hernandez still winds up in the boat for Los Angeles, maybe another reliever for the Braves. Maybe they find another arm. I don't think so. It seems like they're pretty set there at this point. I don't know. I'll say this. I think they're going to probably add one more bat in left field to platoon with Kalinick is my guess. But we'll see what they ultimately do on that front. But I still don't think that moves the needle 3 or 4 games in how the Braves ultimately do. But where do you lean? Who do you think will end up being better in 2024, the Dodgers or Braves, as currently constructed?
Yeah, I think just off the top of my head, I look at what the Braves did last year, and it's hard for me to not see them duplicating that, especially if you have a healthy Max Fried, if you have a healthy Strider, talking about one of the nastiest 1-2 punches in the game, and then probably the best offense in all of baseball, right? Like, I don't expect them to slow down at all. I expect that offense to continue to get better, especially with Ronald Acuna Jr. at the top. And then, Matt Olson, these guys, the thing with these guys is they're not old dudes. Like they're going into their primes. And I think that's exciting to see for Braves fans. And I think that you still have a solid bullpen. I wouldn't be surprised if they end up going and maybe grabbing another piece, but I still have the Braves edging out the Dodgers as far as today. I think more so because of depth in pitching and then how deadly that offense was as a whole last year.
I think I lean Braves too. I'm just so curious to see how the Dodgers rotation unfolds. The health of the rotation, the consistency of that rotation. I want to see it before I'm ready to just say, yeah, the Dodgers are going to be better than the Braves next year. I think all of baseball, I'm sure Manfred and company is just like, do whatever we can to get the Phillies have got to stay away. We've got to get Braves Dodgers in the NLCS. Like that is just, it's going to be a bloodbath if you get those two there. I mean, just two powerhouses that have just gone back and forth. And obviously the Freddie Freeman factor and this, that, and the other. But either way, I think it's going to be a really fun year for both Braves and Dodgers fans. Final two questions for you here, Xavier. Cody Bellinger, outfielder, still out there. Had another great year in 2023. Where do you think he fits best? Not necessarily where do you think he's going to go, but based on what you've seen from Cody's game and just the kind of athlete, defensive player that he is, and just where he is at in his career, where do you think Cody Bellinger fits best on his next team?
Yeah, I really think he fits best, playing first base, playing a little bit of center field, playing maybe some right field, DHing for the Chicago Cubs. Like it just makes too much sense for me as far as what their needs are. And if they lose a middle of the order bat like that, it's really hard to recruit from that. And then on Cody Bellinger's side, I'm just like, why would I want to go away from a place where I refound my success? And obviously the money is going to be the most important thing for him and Scott Boras, who his agent is. But I still think as a player, there's something about being comfortable, and there's something about being able to understand my surroundings and understand who I'm already working with, who helped get me back to that point. And I think as a former player, I look at all those factors can often outweigh, financial gain. And I think instead of maybe being in a position to where he goes somewhere else and he's not familiar with the players, he's got to develop new relationships with the coach. That may be something that could alter his game. And I think I would like to see him stick in a situation where he's had the success. And I think that's where the fit is to me. And I think that's where the fit is for the Cubs, who he can play multiple positions for. And the Cubs haven't really done anything this offseason. So why not at least bring back the best player on your team from 2023?
It is weird, but you don't see these very often, right? When guys reach free agency like this and they don't get the extension from their current team, they rarely go back, it seems like, right? It just, for whatever reason, they move on, generally speaking. And it's like you said, even though it's the best for both sides, is like, Chicago, what are you doing? They're in a weird spot. Chicago right now is probably the weirdest offseason of any team to me in Major League Baseball because they're right there, the NL Central, which you have a lot of experience in, Xavier. I'm still kind of dubious about what the Cardinals are doing with their rotation. Very old. We just saw it with the Mets last year and what that ended up looking like for them.
Yeah.
I don't know. The NL Central is just wide open, and I understand the fear of the Dodgers and the Braves, and if you can realistically get out of the NL if you're Chicago right now, but I don't know. I think they're very close, and I'm surprised that they're not more aggressive in how they've gone about their offseason to really try and catch the Braves and the Dodgers.
Yeah, I think these teams in the Central almost look at, if we don't have to spend the money, then we're not going to, right?
Yeah.
Because obviously some mid-market teams, not so much Chicago, but like they know that division doesn't take extreme dominance to win.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one reason why I still don't count out the Cardinals, because obviously they had a rough year last year, but ultimately all they really need is some starting pitching to help keep them in games, and their offense can really bounce back.
Yeah.
So I expect them to be right there. Obviously, the Brewers aren't a team that spends a lot of money, but they'll find a way. It looks like they're going to keep Corbin Burns at this moment, so they still going to be in the running. And then the Cubs obviously went and got Craig Counsell for a reason too. So you would expect them to want to bring some people, or the right people, in as far as players on the field that can give him the best chance to win. But also then you have to remember, he did a great job with not a lot of resources. So maybe the Cubs could be thinking in that sense. And then you have the Reds, who are extremely exciting, a young team that's going to be coming extremely fast, and they're going to be looking to make some moves. So it's fun seeing the NL Central, but at the same time, they're okay kind of holding their cards and not really spending that type of money, because their division doesn't really ask for that. They don't need that.
That's a good point. I like that. Final two questions for you, Xavier. These are going to be quick ones. Who do you
just
so
said
in your
final
playing
two questions, by the way?
I did, and this is the two-part. I did that, but as a former player, because you just had me thinking here for a second. Who did you come across that you were like, oh, that's a future manager? I'm always curious, because it seems like if you're a catcher, it's just already identifiable, like, oh, future manager potentially. Like, for whatever reason, catchers are just automatically just predisposed to being managers. Who did you come across that you were like, this guy feels like a manager one day?
Yeah, one of them is still playing.
Okay.
And it is a catcher, JT Realmuto. I honestly think that he could be a manager one day. Another one is a catcher too, who just recently became the special assistant to John Mozeliak with the Cardinals. Is Yadier Molina. I think that's kind of a no-brainer. I'm trying to think if there's any other ones, but I would say Yadi to me was like the guy that you could tell he was already managing on the field. Like, he was telling guys what position to be in. I was at first base. He'd be like giving me signals to move over toward the 4-hole or move over toward the foul line. So he just knows the ins and outs of the games, and he's a general out there on the field, and he commands the most. Like, because you see him putting in the most amount of work, it's hard for you as a player to be like, nah, I don't want to put that work in. No, I want to be where Yadi is. I want to be doing what he's doing. I want to be where the best is. And I think there's just that respect factor that comes off of that. And guys that I feel like kind of command that respect without really, exploiting it. I think those are the ones I see using their managerial opportunities in the future.
Final question for you, Xavier. I promise. Your favorite player to watch right now is who? Because I'm always curious, former players and what they see and what they like and who they're drawn to. Who's your favorite player to watch day in, day out?
Favorite player to watch? I'm gonna give you one that a lot of people. Can I give you two? Can I give you two?
Give me two.
Okay,
yeah, you can go two.
All right. So my favorite hitter to watch is Yordan Alvarez. What this dude does at such a young age is so polished, so powerful. And it's like, it really is like watching beauty, because he's so patient at the plate and so disciplined, but he's got the ability to take you further than anyone else in the league at times. So I love watching Yordan out, and he does it in the clutch too. So I love that factor. And then I would have to say Ronald Acuna Jr., man. Like, I know I'm not trying to glaze you because you a Braves fan, but like Ronald Acuna Jr. is just on a different level because of the aggressiveness that he brings to the table on every side of the ball. I still remember the first game of the season last year. He was like tripping over his own shoes at first base because he was trying to steal so bad. Like, and it didn't matter. You couldn't stop him. You couldn't try to pick over. He knew you already disengaged twice or whatever. He was gone. Like, it didn't matter to him. And I think he's got such a confidence that is not reckless, but at the same time, it's like, it's like, whoa, dude, like this is out of control at times, but it's something that adds to the Braves. And it's something that they need. It's like an energy booster at the top of the order. And any team could use it, but like his is different. And it's in the outfield, it's with the arm, it's with him stealing bases, it's with the power, it's with him taking his walks. Like it's hard to be that good in every aspect of the game and that aggressive. And I love watching that part of his game.
I love it. Xavier, this has been fantastic. I appreciate you making the time to come on today's show. We appreciate it over here. What can the good folks check out from you across the YouTube channel, ESPN, everywhere else this week?
Yeah, I would say mostly just go to Show and Go with X on YouTube. Sitting down with some of the biggest in the game, and I'm not just talking players, managers, people in the industry, and having conversations about trending topics, about how to leave a legacy in today's digital branding, the digital age. And then also we're breaking down in-game footage. Like people aren't really doing that. That's something I'm excited about, talking guys, kind of learning the ins and outs of what they're thinking actually in the moment in these pressure situations. So Show and Go with X on YouTube, and it's available on all podcast platforms as well.
There you go. Subscribe today, support Xavier and all the good work that he's doing and will continue to do here in 2024. Xavier, thank you so much for making the time. I greatly appreciate it. We'll have to do it again soon.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.